some other housekeeping matters. I should point out that when there are programs that require registration, the registration takes you to a page where you buy tickets. But the way you buy the tickets is name your own price. You could literally put zero, or maybe not. Maybe they don't accept zero. You put $1, and that's your registration. That's your ticket. So Urban Dharma, for as long as it has existed, which is about 15 years now, has worked on the same model as public radio, public TV, minus a chunk from the government. But otherwise, it's that model, which is that whether you are able to contribute financially or not, you have equal access to the programming. And if you do support, it's because you recognize the importance of the programming, not just for you, but for the community. And that's one of the basic things that we are trying to share here, which is that not just for ourselves, but for our communities, for our neighbors, and in Buddhist expression, for the sake of all beings. So it's as simple as that. And we don't want, even if you want to give us a lot of money, we don't want you to give it thinking that it's what you get out of it, but rather to think in bigger terms of whether I'm there or not there, it's good. And if you recognize it as such, it cannot be a transactional, I'm giving this much because I'm getting that much out of it. Increasingly, I know this, I've been involved in other centers, other projects like this. Increasingly, the market forces are rewiring the way we think about things. Admittedly, religion for a long time has been costing a lot because it's been co-opted, no matter what the religion, by the mainstream powers. And society, until recently, is basically divided into landlords and serfs. And religion has always, at least when they become mainstream, part of where the landlords are. And yeah, I think we need to recognize that religion has taken a lot, from the world. So then, for good reason, you can also see why now, market forces are not always bad, but you can see how people feel that, no, I would rather have a transactional relationship with things. You prove how much you are valuable to me, I'll give you what is due to you. So part of the maybe Protestant ethic, the good side of it is like, show your worth, But in terms of thinking of worth, then if we go along those lines, we should not think of it as a one-on-one, quid pro quo. So a lot of times even, it's been pointed out to me a lot of times, the so-called what we call the dana talk, the offering talk. Again, very well intended, but it becomes kind of a passive aggressive, like, we don't charge you, but it costs so much to keep things going, It also becomes kind of a passive aggressive, and in fact, I've heard people say, just tell me how much. Don't put me on the spot like that, So I think we got it all wrong if we keep going in those directions. So the Buddha says, what does that sign there say, Nathan? Sometimes it's obscured. The donation sign.
Oh, yes.
Yes, what does it say? Read out loud.
Never underestimate the power of small gifts. And then the quote, even if a person throws the rinsing of a bowl or cup into a village pool or pond, thinking, may whatever animals live here feed on this, that would be a source of merit.
Yeah. So merit has to be something, and also, furthermore, we don't have a whole essay up there. Elsewhere, the Buddha says, like, merit comes from what gladdens the heart. And that phrase is in our 16 stages of meditation, that which gladdens the heart. So there's no merit if the action doesn't gladden the heart. So we give because we're inspired to give. And we should be inspired in the way that the Buddha says, to be skillful inspiration. As in, we see that it's good, and we feel good that we're able to share and to give. Actually, this is really interesting. The Buddha, in the earliest layer of Buddhist texts, if you look at that layer, it says, the Buddha says, the only people that you are obligated to give to are your parents. That's it. And this is against a background where in that culture, in that society, there's a whole class of people called Brahmins. They are the priestly class. They are the holders of knowledge. Then they are the holders of ritual expertise. Actually, the highest Brahmins don't serve as priests to others. They are like holders of knowledge. So then in that society, these people are said to, that everybody else is obligated to give to them. So if you don't give to them, bad things will happen to you. So when the Buddha started his monastic order, he made it very clear to his monks and nuns, no one is obligated to give you. This is not how we understand giving. No one is obligated to give you. So you have to live your life in such a way that inspires others to support you. So likewise, we try to do this at Urban Dharma. Recently, I had someone, in their estate planning said to me, I plan to leave something for Urban Dharma. I told the board this. And my response to the person is, why? Like, what do you mean, why? I said, why? And they said, well, isn't that what people do? I said, yes, but I don't think Urban Dharma should have a lot of money sitting around. In fact, we should, live paycheck by paycheck, so to say. And no one gets a paycheck here, by the way. Yeah? It's basically our obligations to the landlord, to the power company, to the phone company, to the internet, to Zoom. Yeah? I said, we should live paycheck to paycheck, because what that means is that the community says we should continue. And when the community says we should not continue, then we should not continue. We have no reason to continue. And having a lot of money sitting there gives us a wrong, temperature read of whether this should continue or not. Yes. So okay,
Unless you need a lot of money to build a monastery or something.
Oh, well, that's a different, yes.
Different stuff.
I did tell the person, I said, now, however, if you say you want the money to go towards building a monastery, I said, that I support. Because in this culture, even in the Buddhist culture in America, telling people that you want to build a place to support monks and nuns will get you the kind of response that is way less shocking than if you say, I am starting a fund to support Martians when we meet them. You know, people are like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Support monks and nuns. Why don't they get a job and get a life? You know, like why? Why should we support monks and nuns? You know. Again, understandably, I think religion has taxed us so long for so much. You know, then we are now a little. You know, yeah. But as for urban dharma, you know, really. I only want it to exist for as long as we all want it to exist, you know. So yes, for practical purposes, you know, even if you disappear, it's hard to disappear next month, you know. So the treasurer says, we should have enough for 1 year of nobody giving us anything. At least 1 year to exit, right? You have to send these things to somewhere else, you know. You can't just put it out on the street and say, and hope that they'll disappear. So we have, you know, we're not irresponsible, you know, we have 1 year, you know, reserves. And if you're curious about what's the cost of running this, it costs about 4,000 monthly. And nobody gets paid. I'm 100% volunteer, you know, but it costs about 4,000, I think, after we pay all our bills, you know. So we need to have reserves like 1 year. I say, okay, that's fair, you know. But other than that, I said we should not have more, because we really want to be sure that we are good for the community, you know, to be here. So anyway, didn't mean to take so much time talking about this, but it's also, I feel it's important for us to think about the models that we use for our centers, for our spiritual communities. And to think about this a little bit more. What kind of economic model is the one that keeps to the spirit of what the Buddha taught? So even that, Buddha says, nobody has any obligation supporting you, even if you want to be a monk or nun. Even that cannot be a burden to the laity and say, now you are responsible. No, they're not responsible. You monks and nuns have to live the kind of life that inspires others to support you. So, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. O Mother, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All Mother, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhidhas. Until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. You protector who possesses great kindness, all-knowing teacher, perfect one, basis of oceans of merit and qualities. Homage to you, the Tathagata, purity, the cause of freedom from attachments, virtue that liberates from the lower realms. This alone is the sublime ultimate reality. Homage to the Dharma that pacifies, having been liberated, you show the path to liberation. Devoted to the moral precepts, you are a field of perfect qualities. Homage to you, the sublime Sangha. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. So please set the booklet on one side. So next we're going to do a guided meditation, going through the stages that we have covered so far. So adjust your physical position. it's good to adjust gradually and in a subtle way. And as we sit and settle, as I have mentioned, we do have to make some kind of resolve, some kind of determination. The resolve and the determination here is to say, I'm going to let body and mind settle. I'm inviting body and mind to settle into a place of ease. And to that end, I'm going to put effort, skillful effort. Skillful effort means, without any sense of being punitive to either body or mind, without any sense of being strict, being tight, but rather skillfully guiding, nudging, encouraging body and mind to settle into a place of quiet and ease. So that in the body and mind settling into this place of quiet and ease, the best conditions are being created for clear seeing to develop. Then as body and mind become more and more at ease, more and more settled, when the heart becomes more and more steady, when the heart begins to see or relate to sensual objects, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, the way that tigers or leopards would react to very fresh, very delicious hay, then there needs to be no effort. There's no need for any effort to control the mind, to control the heart. For the heart has decided, this is of no interest to me. So bring some resolve for the heart mind to become quiet and to settle, recognizing that these are conditions that are good for clear seeing to develop. And that these 16 stages in the end is all geared towards giving rise to wisdom, to clear seeing in a deep way, in a direct way. Develop the ability to see things as they are rather than as they appear to be. Having gone to the wilderness, to the shade of a tree, or to an empty building, sit down, folding legs crosswise, holding body upright. So note here in these instructions, the Buddha did not say anything about closing your eyes or opening your eyes. Generally, if drowsiness is a problem, then don't close your eyes. At the same time, if closing your eyes for some people can cause some more thoughts, at least temporarily for more thoughts to turn up, then also don't close your eyes. Instead, let your gaze fall into that space about 2 to 3 feet in front of you, In the traditional instructions, it says 1 plow share distance in front of you. So about 2-3 feet. Let your gaze cast downwards into that space. Holding body upright. Sit with legs crosswise, meaning sit in a stable way, in a comfortable way. Then bringing mindfulness to the front, establishing mindfulness to the fore. Always mindful, breathe in. Always mindful, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, knowing you are breathing in, knowing you are breathing out. So to know, to pay attention, to be present. As your body do this involuntary process really. So breathing itself is involuntary, but absolutely necessary, and therefore the most basic property of body is the process of breathing. All you need to be present for lasts for only one breath, and then one breath, and then one breath. And so for every single moment, every single breath is the freshness of one breath. Only one breath, whether in breath or out breath, only one breath, only one breath, and stay with that breath. In the first tetrad of these 4 tetrads, we look at the body, this thing that we call my body, and develops a skill of looking through this process that we call a body, using breath, using mindfulness of breathing as an anchor. We begin to turn our attention to body. breathing in long, you should directly know, you should discern, I am breathing in long. Or breathing out long, you should directly know, you should discern, I am breathing out long. So you begin first with long, deliberate, slow, and deep breath. Slowly, slowly, as your body and mind become more and more relaxed, more and more quiet, then the need for breath, the need for oxygen decreases. And that is when you may start noticing your breath has become shorter and shorter, and also more and more subtle, even maybe unnoticeable, but it's going on, it's there. So breathing in short, you should know directly, now I'm breathing in short. Or breathing out short, you should discern, I am breathing out short. In the third stage, the Buddha says to train yourself with, I will breathe in, experiencing the entire body. Train yourself with, I will breathe out, experiencing the entire body. So now breath, or the experience of breathing, is not just limited to breathing through the nostrils, but rather expand this awareness, expand this attention, so that breath as a full-bodied experience, not just nostrils, not just lungs, but the more subtle energy that rides upon breath. Experience that going in all parts of the body. Feel your entire body in some very subtle, but as well, although it's subtle, it can be experienced of the whole body expanding as you breathe in. And the body pulling in, expanding out, pulling back in, expanding out. Train yourself with, I will breathe in, experiencing the entire body, and I will breathe out, experiencing the entire body. In the fourth stage, train yourself with, I will breathe in calming bodily fabrication, bodily formation, bodily activity. And train yourself with, I will breathe out calming bodily fabrication or bodily activity. One way to experience or to do this fourth stage is, as you breathe in, and before you breathe out, take a moment to just scan any part of your body that is feeling some tightness, some pain, some aches, some pressure. And once you recognize where that is, in that breath, as you breathe out, imagine the tightness, the pain even, from there, being pulled out and leaving together with your breath. And in the next moment, with the next inhalation, go there again. And as you breathe out, imagine the pain, the tension, the pressure being pulled out of your body and dissolving into the space in front of you. That is one way to train with. I will breathe in calming bodily activity. I will breathe out calming bodily activity. Also, at this stage, as you breathe in, have a slight smile. And in that way, relax those muscles on your face. Because of the way modern living and technology is, there's a lot of tension in our face. So calm the bodily activity that is building up and aggregating in our face, our head. Give skillful attention to your face and the muscles there and the tensions there. And moving down, and this is another way to do this, where you go scan through in a more systematic way, beginning first with your face, then all around your head, then down to the back of your neck, and down to both your shoulders. And that's another place where stress and pain and trauma tends to aggregate. Train yourself with, I will breathe in, calming, soothing bodily activity, bodily busyness, bodily stress. All of this are bodily fabrications. And train yourself with, I will breathe out, soothing, calming bodily activity, bodily fabrication. It's not necessarily the case that in every moment of this, any of these stages, you are just doing exactly that instruction. So it's not helpful either to keep yourself busy calming this, calming that. Don't go looking for something to calm if there isn't any that is particularly obvious. You're just allowing the space for that to happen. Otherwise, go back to be just simply noticing, following, enjoying, appreciating every breath. Knowing right now it's inhaling, and right now it's exhaling. Right now is inhaling. Right now is exhaling. Then even from 4, you can go back to 3. And 3, proceed again to 4. Or even just go back to the very beginning, where the Buddha says, always mindful, breathe in, always mindful, breathe out. In the next 4 stages, the second tetrad, we turn our attention to feelings. Feelings as a way to develop attention, presence. And although in these feelings there are 3 basic tones, pleasurable, painful, and neutral, the Buddha very skillfully, from the last tetrad, is wanting us to develop the ability to bring up, to make obvious the experience of ease, the experience of joy, both physical and mental joy and ease. And so with the second tetrad, the Buddha specifically says, train yourself with, I will breathe in, experiencing rapture, remember, this is basically stage 5 and 6. The first one is louder, if you could put it that way, kind of feeling good. And the second one is the more stable, but more quiet, kind of feeling good. And this feeling good is not dependent on sensory pleasures, sensory experiences. Instead, it's tuning into a natural ability to experience this, to experience happiness, sukha, or ease that is naturally there when body and mind is not being exhausted by being dragged around here, there, and everywhere. So here, stage 5, we train with first saying to ourselves, I will breathe in experiencing joy or rapture, and I will train myself with, I will breathe out experiencing joy or rapture. So here also, the source of joy and rapture can come from simply recognizing that what I am practicing now is exactly what the Buddha taught and encouraged on many occasions 2,600 years ago. And since then, all those who have walked this path, I am now a part of this ancient path that leads to freedom and happiness. And that kind of joy, you can use that as a skillful way to bring up joy. Another source of joy is, I am doing this not just for me, but I'm learning self-care, so that then from what I learned in terms of skillful self-care, that I can use to apply to care for others. Or even, I shall through this become awake, become Buddha, so that then I can lead all others to the state of Buddha. Or turning even our attention to how by practicing the calming of body and now practicing the calming and the soothing of mind, Supporting this practice is our commitment to disciplined conduct, to the precepts of not harming, not stealing, not violating others' integrity and others' autonomy. Not deceiving anyone, and not becoming heedless through intoxication. So these are the basic training precepts, the keys to freedom that the Buddha offered us. And when we live like this, when we are able to embody this kind of living, this is a source of joy. Because we know that we have lived blamelessly. We know we have lived without harming. So I will breathe in experiencing joy or rapture, and I will train myself with, I will breathe out experiencing joy or rapture. Then the next one is, I will breathe in experiencing ease. I will breathe out experiencing ease. So stage 6 is the settling of stage 5 so that it becomes more stable and more pervasive. When you have had a taste of this joy and this ease, then with this as a supporting condition, as a necessary condition, the Buddha says, now do not fear noticing mental fabrication, mental busyness. And so in stage 7, he says, train yourself with, I will breathe in while experiencing mental fabrication, mental activity, and train yourself with, I will breathe out, experiencing mental fabrication, mental activity, mental busyness. Now, of course, it's not saying that you make it busy, but you notice. Because you have the support of that ease that you are cultivating, first through stage 5, then through stage 6, then it's not so hazardous to actually notice these mental activity, this mental busyness. Once you notice the mental activity and mental busyness, give that space. Give it a lot of space. And that is one way to train in the next stage, which is, I will breathe in, soothing, calming, quieting mental fabrication. And I will breathe out, soothing, calming mental fabrication, mental busyness. As a technique, then you can breathe in and give lots of space while breathing in, giving lots of internal space to whatever mental busyness that you may discover. And as you breathe out, you can think that the mental busyness leaves through the body and goes out and disappears. I will breathe in calming mental busyness. I will breathe out calming mental busyness. And here, mental fabrication is not referring to, and don't follow this mental fabrication to the level of stories and dramas and all of that. But try to just remain at the level of the mental fabrication of labeling that which is painful, labeling it with don't like, that which is pleasurable, a pleasurable contact, labeling it like, and the contact which is neutral, labeling it don't care. It's those mental activity that we are giving lots of space to in order to soothe them and to calm them. When we give more space to these labels of like, don't care, then we have more freedom. Then we won't be so easily dragged around by these labels of like, and don't care. The sensation tone of pain, pleasure, and neutral will still turn up. Even if you're very advanced, very good at soothing and calming this mental fabrication around that which is pleasurable, that which is painful, and that which is neutral, those tones will still arise. But here, at the very least, we want to train skillfully how to not let those labels that come after those tones, meaning with regards to what is painful, don't like. With regards to what is pleasurable, like. With regards to the neutral, don't care. Here we are soothing, we are calming, we are giving space, we're breathing in more space to not let these labels disturb us. As before, you can also go back, even if you are now doing a little bit of stage 8, you can still go back to 5, where this joy is something more obvious. And breathe in and out there until this joy naturally becomes more subtle and stable. And now you're in stage 6. I will breathe in experiencing ease or happiness, and I will breathe out experiencing ease. This ease comes from satisfaction. Satisfaction comes from contentment. Be happy with the fact that you are breathing. Be happy with the fact that after one breath, surprisingly, another breath has turned up. After an out-breath, another in-breath is occurring. Out-breath and in-breath and out-breath. I will breathe in soothing, calming mental activity. I will breathe out soothing and calming mental fabrication. Sorry, my phone has been very busy. I don't know if you can hear. That's Mom. In Malaysia, it's already my birthday, and so all these messages, aside from Mom frantically calling. It's like, silence, she calls again, silence, she calls again. We all have moms, we understand. Especially when, well, some of us remember this, right? When that phone, you know, like the one that actually is about this big, rings, right? And it rings infrequently. And then when it rings, right, you like run like mad, right? To go pick it up and answer because it's so exciting. You young people. You're like, what demented person is calling? Who died? But when I was a kid, you know, when the phone rang, you know, like, so excited, you know, because it might ring every few days.
We're not that young, we remember that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Phone might have looked a little different, but.
So anyway, yes. Oh, how old am I? I could plead it, you know, ignorance because I wasn't there when it happened. I wasn't there, you know. I'm 54. Yeah, you know. Didn't mess up along the way and made it to 54. So, what do you think? Yes.
I can see how this 16th stage leads to the calming environment.
The 8 leads to calming. Then, starting from 9 onwards, more explicitly, insight is addressed.
That's what my
Yeah.
word is the emotion
Yes, starting from 9. Yeah, so the question of the comment was like, you can see how the 16 stages lead to the calming of the mind. But no, actually, the first 8 is more explicitly about calming and soothing. Then 9 begins the tuning into clear seeing. Already, even 1 to 8, you are being prepared for seeing. Because breath is not just an object to soothe the mind. If that was it, the Buddha will say, in other places the Buddha says use a pebble or use a twig, something like that, or even use the image of a Buddha. But here, very skillfully, something about breath is what? It's impermanent. Impermanent doesn't mean not important either. You're like, well, duh. Yeah, exactly, duh. But we don't get duh because we get carried away with all sorts of things. So even something as crucial and as important as breath, lacking which, game over. Right? Even that, you are being prepared in a very subtle way. You cannot grasp breath. The moment you grasp at breath, yeah, you get stuck. So already, the Buddha is preparing you for the insight that you have to cultivate in the next 8 stages. But that legwork is being done. You begin to see, oh yes. And then even that one breath, right? When you begin to really work on this, meaning not like work hard, but consistent, building up, you begin to see like what you previously called one breath is many, many moments of breath going on. And so then you zoom into the momentary nature of every moment. Then you begin to discover space in between those moments. Then what is that space? What is that space? I can give you words. Then you fill your head with words. Useless. You find that space. You experience that space. And then you know what it is.
I've heard folks that space that can't be named.
Yeah, then that becomes a name, so don't.
Thank you.
Ice cream.
Yeah, or we call it Bob. Just,
Sure.
have you discovered your inner Bob? Yeah, so you begin to learn, And this is all, yes, the commentaries like across different meditation traditions that use these 16 steps or part of the 16 steps, right? They all say that these first 8, if they use at all the 8, is more explicitly about calming or calm abiding. But in the end, calm abiding and insight are not two different states. So one Thai forest master, Ajahn Chah, he says, it's like a stick, necessarily a stick, there are 2 ends, but you can't really pick up a stick by saying, I only want to pick up one end. You may pick up one end, and this is higher, but the other end comes up with you. So insight and calm are 2 sides of this same quality of mind. And that you should think of it that way so that you are developing them side by side. It's just what's in the foreground, what's in the background. Then also he uses this analogy. He says, insight and calming, he says, it's like a machete that you use to clear the forest, because he's often teaching villagers. He says it's like a machete you use to clear the forest. It says if you have, and these machete that they use to clear the forest needs to have two qualities. It needs to have weight, it needs to have sharpness. It says if all you have is weight and the machete is blunt, it'll take a long time, to clear a path through the forest. But if it's very sharp and it lacks weight, it won't last very long. So sharpness is the insight. Weight is the calm. Us, superficially, we have a lot of sharpness. We're very smart. Even the intellectual smart, there's a role. Buddhism has a role for it. Even if we say, in the end, the intellect cannot touch. Incapable, not like cannot, not allowed, but incapable. The intellect to fathom wisdom. But Buddhism does give a lot of space to skillfully using the intellect. Yeah? But we in particular need to be careful because we have very sharp minds. But that can be deceptive because that sharpness lacks weight. So when suffering turns up, that sword stops working very quickly because it lacks weight. How many times, when suffering turns up, you're like, I know all these things. And it's not working. Buddhism is all just talk. Because we got misled by, thinking, oh, I have the sharpness. So lacking weight. Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the last chapter?
Yeah, or the next 4. We have to go over it so that the next 8, we'll go over it, just talk, because no time to practice, right? So maybe there's part 2 to this series that we can do sometime later in the summer. And this is a theme that I think will come back again and again, because no matter what other practice that you're doing for your own practices, I think just going through this again and again really helps. You can incorporate this into whatever it is, the practice that you're doing. And maybe some of you, the practice that you do is called running. Figure out how your running can be informed by this, And some of you might be gardening. Figure out how your gardening can be informed by this. And some of you might be sitting in formal sessions doing this practice. Even that, you need to figure out how this is going to work, Okay, so then, at this point, up to 8, body and mind has gone through both, you could say, noticing the stresses of it and soothing the stresses. In one, I try to relate this, in my daily morning class, we're reading through a collection of 30 teachings given in the 12th century over a period of a month. So one section is, he says, this 12th century teacher, the founder of the lineage that I'm a part of, Kyoba Chikden Singha, he says, you may have gained some realization about the nature of your mind, the nature of phenomena. In other words, suchness, emptiness, Buddha nature. He says, you may have gained some experience in that, some realization in that, and you may be able to abide for a long time. Let your mind settle in that which you have recognized to be your nature. Right? He says, but as long as you still have this separation between now my mind can, stably abide in this emptiness nature, this selfless nature, this pristine nature, whatever word you want, Bob. It says, as long as you still have to come out of it, then necessarily fixation on concreteness would arise again. She says, that's just how it is. And he says, so therefore, you also need to learn how formations, exactly this, sankhara or samskara, how formations kind of unfold. It says if you don't also train in seeing how formations arise, then at best you need to always stay in. Yeah. So then he says, you also need to know how formations take place so that you can relinquish that. Which is what the next 8 is really. So already in the first 4 and the next 4, again, the legwork for starting to understand how formation occurs in a very preliminary, crude way the Buddha gave it. Simply by saying, calm your bodily formation, calm your mental formation. But there, in order to calm it, you are already introduced to the fact there are these things which we normally don't even think of it that way. We just think of it as body, mind. Like the body is one thing. And why is it not working the way I want it to work? Then the mind is one thing. Why is it not cooperating? Again, in the first 8 stages, you are beginning to kind of be trained. Now 9. Train yourself with, I will breathe in experiencing mind. Train yourself with, I will breathe out experiencing mind. So mind here can also be translated as, in the plural, minds, thoughts. Because again, the Buddha did not speak of mind as a singular, discrete entity. Not even like a soul or a spirit. In fact, famously, he did not speak that way. Whereas his other spiritual contemporaries in India famously had great interest and taught a lot about the spirit or the soul, the Atman, and how you are not the body, you are this divine self, you are this divine soul. Right? Not criticizing that, just saying the Buddha did not take that route. And almost you could feel like deliberately, as in he understood a different approach. He taught a different approach. He experienced a different approach. So in this approach, in his, the way he explains it, of course, myself, I say is the truth, but I'm not gonna force that on you. So I'm using neutral language, because you need to come to that yourself, you know? So if you hear me speaking tentatively, it's not because I can tell you that I am tentative, but I don't want to make truth proclamations. You need to come to it yourself through experiencing it directly, not through subscribing to some belief so that you can join the club. You know, we're kind of nice and cool here. Yeah? You can join the club without subscribing to these beliefs. But for your own sake, if you really want to taste the Buddha's teaching, the taste of liberation, you have to go from small t truth to discovering if it is the big T truth. Yeah? So mind, the Buddha says, is momentary. Or at least begin on that level. That every moment is a moment of mind. So here when it says experiencing minds, now instead of staying at the level of Vedana, which is just the three tones of like, don't care, right? Which actually, I don't know if you notice, right? There is the actual experience, and then there's the label. So the actual experience is pain, pleasure, neutral. On top of that, there's one layer already. One layer has been added. Painful, don't like. Pleasurable, like. Neutral, don't care. Right? Now when it says, I breathe in experiencing mind, now your attention is turned to the proliferating one. As in, I'm bored, I am excited, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling meh, I'm feeling this, that, all those thoughts, all those emotions, you are now turning your attention to experiencing that. Okay, all the calm is supposed to provide a safe space, so to say. A safe space for, so without losing the mind and the body that has been calm and soothed, you deliberately now turn your attention. So if you want to talk about percentage, there is percentage, but I'm not going to tell you, 45% keep here and 55 there. Just know that you're keeping a balance. You don't want to turn to experiencing mind to the degree of like, you're now completely worked up. So you need to still anchor yourself on the calmed and soothed body and mind, now turning attention to busyness of mind, but beyond that subtle tones. So you turn your attention to that. And then, again, the Buddha takes us back to that quality of joy and ease. Next one, he says, I will breathe in gladdening the mind, I will breathe out gladdening the mind. So this is actually not so different from calming mental fabrication, except that the object is a more, you could say, problematic object. It's not as simple as just like, and don't care. The object now is complicated. The handbook for psychologists, the disorders are about this thick now. In a way, it's turning your attention to that. But no, please don't, right? To whatever degree of that, now you gladden the mind. And you say, how? In the same way as going back to those sources, those resources. So the 16 stages isn't to be practiced without a broader context. the broader context of understanding the role of disciplined conduct, not harming, not stealing, not violating others' integrity and wholeness, and not using others, not taking advantage of others, all of that. The goal of becoming free for yourself and for others, that you need to fold in. So in the end, this is like a method of actualizing this broader, what we call view. So in the Tibetan Buddhist system especially, they talk about the view, the meditation, and the conduct. So the view is like, in terms of this, it's like, why do I want to live here? And why do I want to go there? And how to get from here to there? Not literally here physical. Samsara and nirvana is not places. They are modes of being. So what is the problem with the mode of being called samsara? What is the advantages of the mode of being called nirvana? How do we get from samsara to nirvana? That understanding has to be there. And you can learn that by reading, by discussing, by attending more teachings to get more and more clarity about that. But as to how then, so that's the view, and this is the meditation. And this meditation is to be enhanced by conduct. And that's the disciplined conduct. Then those three all come together. And these are the three tripods of the path of the Buddhist life, if you want to call it that. 11, I will breathe in concentrating mind. I will breathe out concentrating mind. What is going on there? When there is this gladdening of mind, your heart, your attention, your being begins to come together. So this is not like, someone beating you over the head telling you to concentrate. So you should not, stage 11, train like this. Concentrate. It's talking about something that comes together. The imagery I like to offer is like when you are churning butter. If you have never experienced that before, you are deprived. Go get a mason jar, get some cream. If you have a lot of time, you don't need to put an agitator in there. If you have a lot of time and you have enough energy, then just cream and mason jar and shake and shake and shake and shake and shake. That moment right before butter turns up, is a magical moment if you pay attention. That's what's going on here. From the gladdening of the heart. And it's different, I don't know how to explain how is it different from the piti and sukha. It's not radically different, but it's different. This gladdening of mind, it's a very expansive, it's not based on sensory experiences. This gladdening of mind will cause the mind to come together in a kind of wholeness. Like the butter that turns up when you're shaking and agitating. Then it enters into this concentration. But this is the kind of concentration that comes from seeing, from insight. Now, link back. how does experiencing mind and gladdening mind, what kind of gladdening is going on here? Is the kind of gladdening that comes from understanding the nature of these thoughts. Which is, they have no substance to them. They are temporary arising. And when you give it space, not like giving space as in like, keep dodging, getting out of the way. But here is the realization of the essenceless nature of these experiences, the dreamlike quality. So from just impermanence now we have other imagery, like they arise like rainbows, vivid and clear yet lacking substantiality. That's how you gladden the mind. Then the mind gathers. So this is not the concentration where people will say, oh, I can meditate until I don't hear anything. Say, well, poke your ears out. Instant not hearing anything. I meditate so well that I don't see anything anymore. Well, poke your eyes out. But somewhere back there, we all still stubbornly hold on to this idea that meditation will be very good when I stop hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, feeling. Even though we know, no, it's not that, but it's still very stubborn. These are spirits that are hard to exorcise. They're hiding back there. But this kind of concentration doesn't involve that kind of control. All your sense doors are left naturally. But the mind comes together. Next, freeing the mind. You're like, wait, not enough that the mind has come together in such a wonderful way? Yes, not enough. Because now a different kind of grasping is happening. You don't grasp up the fame, fortune, reputation, all of that. Now you're grasping at this experience. So you have to work on freeing. But it's not like you're introducing a freedom that is not already there. All of this is really about paying attention and drawing out those qualities. From the ultimate side of things, the mind is already free. But that's just theory right now. Yeah? Again, in the teachings from the 12th century, I've been editing some of these teachings that this Kyopa Jigten Sumgön gave. This evening, I have a very nice passage. Bear with me, it's getting late, I know. But it's worth, this passage is very nice. I don't know if it's related to what we're talking about. It's very nice. Let's see if it'll pull up. Yeah. So, yeah, I got it. So let's see. Okay, last modified. Okay. Yes. It's very nice. And then I asked a friend and said, hey, can you generate an AI image of a tiger with 9 heads for me? It says here, although we have been awakened since beginningless time, we denigrate ourselves into thinking that we are ordinary sentient beings. We denigrate ourselves into thinking that we're ordinary sentient beings. If one affirms something that is not so, That is called superimposition. By our fundamental nature, we are awakened. You only need to recognize yourselves as Buddhas and remain in that state. This is called practicing the path. When you become habituated to that, you become Buddhas. Otherwise, it would be like arguing that coal is white. No matter how much you may polish coal, it is impossible to turn it white. You may imagine that a 9-headed tiger is in the sky, or a rabbit with horns 18 arm span long exists, but that would not be the case. It is just like this. Hence, knowing the nature of your own mind just as it is your practice. All beings equal to the extent of space are said to be nothing but Buddhas. If you do not practice the main practice of perceiving Buddhas as Buddhas, you cannot achieve awakening. So at this stage, the gladdening of mind is related to some understanding about, still kind of preliminary, about this true nature, about Bob. It's that space. And then the mind comes together. Then coming together, now you want to notice the freedom aspect of that. 12. 13, breathing in, observing inconstancy. Now you thought, hey, I thought we are home free now. Buddha and free. No, he takes you back to now directly look at impermanence, inconstancy. This is the equivalent of looking at how mental formations. So it's not enough to understand ultimate truth. You also need to see relative truth completely and clearly. And the most important thing to see about relative truth is the inconstant nature of every single experience. From the biggest, most noble experience, an idea of world peace, universal peace, where the lion and the lamb will lay next to each other, all of that, to the most heinous thought that you can imagine or cannot imagine, all of that, they don't have any substance. They are temporarily arising. Understanding this inconstancy will free us. So turn now attention to observing inconstancy. Then in the more we understand this inconstancy, then we can observe the dispassion that arises from there. But this is not the dispassion of lack of passion. This is like a natural releasing. Fixation, release. Then observing cessation. At that point you can experience all graspings to cease. And then you're like, wait, done? Not yet. Observing relinquishing. There's always the theme of, even when you think that the goal has been reached, there is still one more step. So in the Soto Zen tradition, they express this as this is how they do it. Because, why do you meditate? You don't meditate to become a Buddha. You meditate because Buddhas are in a state of meditation without interruption. And if you are Buddha, fundamentally Buddha, then you should always be in the state of meditation. Furthermore, Because Buddhahood is endless, right? So practice is also endless. Because the practice is to express your Buddhahood. So when you understand that, you don't need an end. Why would you want an end? So maybe after stage 16, you go back to stage 1. Yeah, so anyway, I'm sorry that we have to rush through the last 8, but at least, hopefully it'll give you an idea of how the 16 comes together. So I hope, I do plan, not just hoping, that we will engage, come back to this material on a regular basis. So stay tuned to see when we are doing this next. And then when the Forest Hermitage is available for use. It's different, when you say to your parents, pets, okay, I'm gonna be gone 2 days. Then they can't bug you, and you don't need to bug them. Drive 1 hour away and say, okay, nothing else to do now. Then the mind and the body settles in a different way. In a way, it's a real commitment, what you guys are doing. It's one thing if, you're doing it every night, then it's just like, well, that's what I do every night. But like Thursday, I got to remember it's Thursday again. It takes a lot of determination, to actually turn up. And that, I want to, acknowledge and recognize that because it's not routine. So, but what to say? This is the circumstance of our lives, this is what we decided is manageable for us. So, in fact, Buddha says, you lay people are very brave, very strong. It's like, we monks and nuns is like, can't do that, sorry. So, we're going to have a more consistent, not have to switch in and out, But to have the chance to experience this is why this forest project is there. We didn't build it for 5 monks and nuns to live there. But in order for that space, just like this temple, to be a space for other people to experience what is possible, we do need it to grow our monastic community. So anyway, let us end with the dedication at the end on page 9. By this merit may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating enemies of faults and delusions, just as heroic Manjushri knows everything as it is, and Samantabhadra, who is thus as well, so too will I follow in their path and perfectly dedicate all the virtues accumulated. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. May the life of the teachers, glory of the teachings be firm. May this world be filled with holders of the teachings. May Fortunes possessed by benefactors of the teachings increase. May all be auspicious. Teachings remain perpetually. Thank you so much for joining us these 4 Thursdays. Starting next Thursday, we go back to the format of Open Sangha, which is not like this. Half an hour of guided meditation, and maybe we could use some of what we learned here. Perhaps. It depends. Different people anchor that part on different Thursdays. Followed by 15 minutes of socializing, getting to know each other, chit-chat, sharing some nibbles and tea. And then 45 minutes of discussing in a group, reading the Dhammapada. So please come and join us any of those Thursdays when you have time. The motto that we used to use, not anymore, but it's still in that spirit. It's like, no expectations, no commitment, and no charge for Open Sangha. But basically, it's all of what we do here. But on your end, at some point, of those 3, commitment to your own process. You need to develop that. It doesn't mean I'm not telling you to commit to urban dharma, but a commitment to your own process of waking up, of awakening. If you don't make that commitment, nothing can happen. Then all of this is just another set of entertainment. Oh, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I know that. Then when suffering comes, it's not very useful. You have some announcement, something? This is Nathan.
Yes, so on this Saturday, we have a program in the morning that Dr. Lai is going to give.
That's the Smells and Bells Buddhism.
Yes, so a little different. If you're interested, there's a flyer. You can find out there. But sort of more importantly, well, it's not what it's supposed to say.
But that's how he really feels. That's okay.
More relevant, at 2 p.m.,
More relevant.
we're going to have our spring potluck.
We'll do something irrelevant in the morning, but in the afternoon. Sorry, Nathan. I like to tease and torture. Go on.
So also during our spring potluck, because it's coming the day after Dr. Lai's 55th birthday.
No, 54, come on!
We're going to celebrate that as well, next spring. So please come if you can. It is a vegetarian potluck. So if you have something tasty vegetarian to bring, or even if you don't, just bring yourself. That's enough, really.
Yeah, you can call Uber Eats.
Or but yeah, please come if you can. It's basically drop in. You can come at 2. Come sometime after that. We should be here for a little while. Yeah,
The program in the morning starts at 11.
that's right.
11.
Yeah, it's cultivating vitality. It's a Tibetan Buddhist practice of the Buddha of longevity. It's a ritual ceremony of restoring vitality. Normally translated as longevity, but it's not really talking about longevity. It's talking about vitality of life. Both body and mind has its own vitality. But as we go about our lives, these vitality, we lose them, they get dissipated. So the idea of this is a way to bring back this life vitality and cultivating the identity of this particular Buddha form that is called the Buddha of limitless life. But the limitless life is a metaphor for living for the benefit of others. That's when life becomes alive, full of vitality, when we skillfully live for the benefit of others. And then there's smells and bells. Yeah, yeah. Then after that, yes, the 55th. So.
That's like a year.
Yeah, no 55 candles. We don't have a fire extinguisher here. Although we do. The fire marshal made us put one there. Okay, ta-ta everyone, good night. All our friends out on Zoom land. Bye-bye.